Begin the Gemara today and Daf Kuf Vav Amud Aleph right at the beginning of the Yamud. Tana Rabbanam, we learned in the Braise, Chalitze mutas, a chalitze that was done with a mistake. Ksheira will be kosher. Heizi chalitze mutas. So what is a chalitze done with a mistake? Rish Lakish says, Kol sha'imrim loi. If you tell the Yavam chalitz, do chalitze for this woman, ubekach ata kainsa. And by doing this chalitza, you're marrying her. So he misunderstands the entire ceremony. He thinks he's marrying her while he's really doing chalitza to be mat to her to get married to someone else. That's a good chalitza. Rabbi Yechanan said to Rish Lakish, this is not the correct pshat. Ani Shaina, I learned in a Braise, and we had this before, that Ben Shen is kaven hu, if the man had concentrated on what he's doing, and he knew that it's a chalitza, the Yevamos, when she removed his shoe, she had no idea what she's doing. Or if the reverse, she knew what she's doing, and he did not know what he's doing. The chalitza is pasul. They both have to know what they're doing, what the chalitza is about. And Yurish Lakish say that the pshat in this braise, chalitza mutas, means that the man did not have any idea what he's doing. He thought he's marrying her, and the chalitza would be kosher. Hello, so therefore, Rabbi Yechanan that says the pshat is kol sha'imrim loy chalitzla. If you tell the man, you see this guy doesn't want to do chalitza, so what do? You tell the man, do chalitza, allow her to do chalitza for you. Almanas shetitin loch masayim zuz, and she's going to pay you 200 zuz with this condition. And then what happens? He comes and says, no, where's the money? I'm not giving you a penny. The whole tnai was a joke. The chalitza will take effect, even though he was fooled into this. He was doing this with this mistake, thinking that he's going to get this money. So Rashi explains why the T'nai does not take effect. Every T'nai in the Torah is learned from Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, when Moshe Rabbeinu made a T'nai with the Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven that didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael. And one of the details you'll learn from there is you could only make a T'nai when you're doing an action that takes effect al pi Torah if that action that's being done is a kind of action that could be done through a shliach. Just like over there, Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, they were coming to Yarsha and Eretz Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't actually the one that brought them into Eretz Yisrael. He did it through a shliach. Who did it? Yeshua is the one that brought them into Eretz Yisrael. And with this, he made a condition that you can stay over here in Ever HaYarden if you're going to go and fight with Yidden in Eretz Yisrael. So too, a condition that you make could only take effect if it's regarding something that can be done through a shliach. For example, a kiddushin, a gittin, a kinyan, that you could appoint a shliach to do that for you. Chalitza, though, cannot be done with the shliach. The Yavam himself has to be present in order for the Yevamos to remove his shoe. So if it's something that can't be done through a shliach, a T'nai cannot take effect. So therefore, she doesn't have to fulfill what she said. The Gemara brings a braise where it says this, Tanya nami hachi, chalitza mutas ksheira, chalitza, a mistaken chalitza is kosher, Ezi chalitza mutas, and what is this mistaken chalitza? Kol sha'imrim chalitzla amanas shetitin loch masayim zuz. You tell the Yavam that have a chalitza done with her, and she'll give you 200 zuz, and then she doesn't have to give it. Umaysa bisha achas, there was an incident with a woman, shenaflu lifnei yavam she'ein hagun la, that she fell in front of a yavam that was not appropriate for her to get married to, for whatever reason, the age or some other reason. V'amru la, that is, so they said to the yavam, chalitzla amanas shetitin loch masayim zuz. So have the chalitza done, and then she'll give you the 200 zuz. And then and the story came in front of Rab Chia, she wasn't going to pay him the 200 zuz, and Rab Chia said that it's kosher. You don't have to fulfill the condition. The whole condition doesn't take effect. There was a woman that came in front of Rab Chia Barabe for in this situation that she needed a chalitza. So Rab Chia Barabe tells her, why do chalitza? Biti, my daughter, Amaidi, get up. So according to the first pshat in Rashi, get up over here means go ahead and let her go get married to him. Why chalitza? The main mitzvah is to do yibum. That's what he told her. Amralei Ema, or actually the girsa according to Rashi here is Amrala Ima. Her mother was there with her. So the mother says to Rab Chia Barabe, Yeshivasa zua midasa. For her to sit down, meaning to refrain from doing chalitza, that's for her the best idea. In other words, that's for her standing up. In other words, the mother was saying it's not a good idea for my daughter to marry this man. It's not a good shidduch. Amar la, so Rab Chia Barabe says to the mother, Yedai tlei, Do you know something about this Yavam? Is there a reason why you're saying this? That it's not a good idea that your daughter should marry this Yavam? Amralei, the mother said, yes, I do know something. Mamaynu the Chazila. This Yavam here sees that she has money, that this Yavama has money. She's going to get money from her husband that passed away, and then what happens? The Yavam inherits this when she gets married to him. The Kabayla Michla Mina, and he wants to just marry her to eat up all her money, and then he's going to divorce her. Amalah, so now Rav Chia bar Abba turns to the Yavama herself and says to her, you're not interested in getting married to him? Amralei, so she says to him, Loi, no, I don't want to get married to her. So Amalei, Chaloitzla, Ubekachata Kainza. So now Rav Chia bar Abba knew that this guy is really interested in getting married to her. He's not going to be ready to do a chalitza. So he says to him, do a chalitza, and when you have the chalitza done, this will be the marriage. Bekachata Kainza. You're marrying her. So now he went ahead and did the chalitza. Labasa the chalitzla, after he did this chalitza with this mistake, thinking that he's marrying her, Amalei, now Rav Chia bar Abba says to the man, Hashte minach ifsalala. Now from you, he's already possible to get married to you. As we learned before, a pasala chalitza, even if it doesn't take effect to be mat her to everyone else, but it passes her to get married to any of the brothers or to this man here. So now that she can't marry you anyways, chalitzla. Now give her a chalitza ma'al yisa, a proper chalitza, ki heichi de tishteri le'alma, so she can get married to anybody else. Another story that happened, Bas Chamua de Rav Papa, the daughter of the father-in-law of Rav Papa, in other words, the sister-in-law of Rav Papa, Nafla lifnei Yivum. She also fell in front of someone, a Yavam shein haganla, that was not the right shidduch, not appropriate for her to get married to. So what is she going to do? Asla kameida Abaye. So she came in front of Abaye, Amalei. So Abaye tells this individual that was not interested in letting go of her, Chalitzla, do a chalitza for her, ubekachata kainsa, and with this you'll be married to her. So Rav Papa was there. Amalei Rav Papa says to Abaye, do you not agree to this that we learned before, that Rabbi Yochanan said? What did Rabbi Yochanan say? Rabbi Yochanan said that if you do a chalitza and you fool the person, you tell him that you're marrying her, the chalitza doesn't take effect. So you're telling him to do this kind of chalitza, she's not going to become mutter to get married to anybody else. So Rav Papa says, Heichi, or Ve'ela, Heichi Eimelo, so Abaye, that is, asks Rav Papa, so what should I tell this Yavam to do? Amalei, Rav Papa says, tell him as follows, Chaloitzlo almanas shetitan loch masayim zos. Tell him to do the chalitza and that she's going to pay you 200 zuz. Maybe then he'll want to do the chalitza. So that's what they did. And then lebasar, the chalitzla, so after the chalitza was done, Amalah, so now Abaye says to this woman, Zil havla, that is, go pay him the 200 zuz that you just said that you're going to pay. So Rav Papa again says, you have to understand what's going on over here. Abaye was the one that was really feeding this whole din Torah. They came to this din Torah to Abaye, but it was Rav Papa's sister-in-law. Rav Papa sort of came as her lawyer, and he's constantly telling the Rav, Abaye, what to do. And every step of the way, he's sort of correcting Abaye, you're making a mistake. So again over here, Rav Papa tells Abaye, why are you telling her that she has to pay the money that she said she would pay? Amalei, mishata anibach avdalei. She can go and laugh at him and say, I was fooling you. I was never serious about the fact that I'm going to pay you this money. So the Rishonim explain over here that the Gemara is adding an additional point to what it said before. Before, the Gemara said that when you make this condition, the condition doesn't even take effect. But there's another thing. Even if the condition doesn't take effect, if you obligate yourself to pay somebody money, even without the condition paying effect, you should have to just pay that money that you obligated yourself. So over here, what Abaye was saying is, okay, the condition didn't take effect, but didn't you obligate yourself to pay this money? So on that, Rav Papa said, no, it's not even an obligation, b'chlal. She can say, I was just fooling around with you when I said that I would give you this money. Where do you find such a concept? Milay Tanya, did we not learn in the Braisa the following point? A person that was in prison, he was in danger in prison, and he's running away from prison, he's saving his life, and he comes to a river, and there's a ferry that's carrying people over the river. And he tells this person that has this ferry, here, I'll pay you a dinner and get me across the river. So then what happens? And so the dinner that he offered to pay him was way above the price for this ferry. Ainly elis chadai. So then when he brings him across the river, he can say to him, I'm only paying you the regular price that there is for this ferry. I'm not giving you this expensive price I offer to give you. So Alma, what do we see from there? Amalei, that this guy could say to this person that brought him across, Mishata nibach, I was just fooling around with you. I never meant to pay you this high price. Now what's the reason a person has the right to say such a thing? Usually when you obligate yourself to pay someone money, you do have to give it. So why over here does he not have to? Because in such a case, the person that brought him across on this ferry had the obligation to do it. Because here you're saving someone's life, he's running away from prison. So therefore he had the obligation to bring him across. So even if I say I'm going to give you all this money, you don't have to do so, because it was your obligation to bring me across. So Hachanami, here as well, Mishata Anibach, she can say to him, listen, you're not appropriate for me to get married to you, this is not a proper shidduch b'chlal, and therefore you had the mitzvah of chalitza. This was your mitzvah. The fact that I said I'm going to give you 200 zuz for this, I'm not obligated to do it. Adarab, it's your obligation to do this for me. So this is what Rav Papa is explaining Abaye. Amalei, so after all of this whole thing that happened here, Abaye was trying to be a Rav, to take care of this Yibum, or Chalitza rather, and Rav Papa is constantly correcting him. Amalei, so Abaye says to Rav Papa, Avu cheche, where's your father? Amalei b'masa, my father's right here in the city. So he asks him, where's your mother? Amalei b'masa, my mother's also here in the city. So what's happening over here is Abaye grew up as a Yasam. He didn't have a father or a mother that raised him. Rav Papa had a father and mother that raised him. So Abaye is basically telling Rav Papa, you have a father and mother that raised you well, and therefore you're able to learn Torah better than me, and you're able to correct everything that I'm doing. But Abaye felt bad about what happened here. And then, so there was an ayin hara here. Yav be'ena ushchiven. So because of this ayin hara of Abaye, Rav Papa's parents passed away after this. Very difficult to understand. But that's the conclusion of the story. Tana Rabbanam, we learned in another brayse, Chalitza mutas ksheira. A mistaken chalitza is kosher. Get muta, a mistaken get, puzzle, will be puzzle. Chalitza mu'usis, a chalitza that was done by force, psula, will be puzzle. Get mu'usa, a get that's done by force, kosher, will be kosher. So the Gemara will explain what this brayse is saying here. Now, hey chidami, what are we talking about? Idam reitzani. When it says over here a forced get and a forced chalitza, if the case is that the person is taka being forced, but he verbally is telling us, reitzani, I consent, I agree to give this get or to do this chalitza, so then I feel a chalitza nami. So the chalitza should also take effect, even though by chalitza it has to be something that has to be with his will, where the person comes and says, we'll see soon the psukim that he says that he's not interested, he's not going to do yibum and so on. But if he's saying reitzani, then it should be good enough. And if he's not verbalizing and saying the words reitzani, that I consent, that I'm interested in doing this, so get nami loy. By the get shouldn't take effect as well. We know by a get, a forced get against the husband's will could take effect, but that's only if the husband says the words reitzani. But if he's not saying reitzani, how would it take effect? So the Gemara explains, you're right, we have to understand this brayse as follows. Hachi ka'amar, this is what it says here. Chalitza mutas, if a chalitza is done, a mistaken chalitza, the way we explained it before, lo'ilam kosher, that's always kosher. The get muta, a get that's done with a mistaken get, with a t'nai, and you don't fulfill the t'nai, lo'ilam pasul, that's always going to be pasul. When you make a condition with the get, you better fulfill that condition. The condition takes effect. Otherwise it's pasul. Chalitza mu'usis v'get mu'usa, a chalitza that's done by force or a get that's done by force. So zimnin kosher v'zimnin pasul. So both of them sometimes would be kosher and sometimes pasul. What's the difference? Ha da'ama reitzani. If the husband consents and says reitzani, so then it's kosher. And ha da'layama reitzani. If he did not, after he was forced and he did not say reitzani, so then it will be pasul. Titanya, as we learned in the brayse regarding a carbon, the same thing. There the Torah says, Yakriv Vaisai, you should bring the carbon, and the carbon has to be brought, L'ritzaina, has to be brought with his consent. So Melamed, what this teaches us is, Shekayfen Vaisai, that we force him to bring the carbon. Yakriv means that we bring him, that we force him to do this. Now by Yachal Bal Karchai, but we would think this is even against his will, Tamad Laima L'ritzaina, but the Pasuk says that he has to agree. So, okay, Sad, what does this mean? He's forced to bring the carbon, and we force him until he himself says, Reitzani, I agree to bring. And the same is also with a get. We force the husband to give a get, until he will say Reitzani, and then the get is kosher. So So this is the famous Gemara and the Rambam that the Rebbe quoted thousands of times. What's the reason? What's the significance of saying Reitzani? If he's saying verbally Reitzani, but he's being forced to say so, what kayak does the Reitzani have? Elamai, so the Rambam explains in the end of the second Perek of Hilchos Geirushin that that's the true will of the Yid. Even though he may think that his true will is not to give this get or not to bring the carbon, whatever the mitzvah is, but when he says Reitzani, that is really an expression of his true desire. No, so if so, the question is, on the other hand, so why does he have to say the words Reitzani? If that's anyways his true desire, so who cares if he says it or not? The answer is, but nevertheless, that true desire that he has to come out and be expressed. It has to be begili. And it's in his heart. But he has to say it and verbally express the true desire that he has in his heart. Bezdin will do a chalitza, afa pisheim makirin. Even if they don't know who the Yavam and the Yevam are, it could be some random person that's coming and doing this chalitza, and it's not really the Yavam. We don't make an investigation to find out who it is. Similar mimanin, when it comes to miyun, which is a ketana, that she could reject the whole marriage. So we do this miyun where she comes and rejects the marriage. Af pishem makirin, even if we don't know who they are. So lefichach, because the bezdin that does this chalitza or the miyun does not make this investigation, so ein kaisven get chalitza. We don't write a get chalitza. And after you do a chalitza, you write a get. So this woman should have a proof, a document that the chalitza was done. We don't write this get chalitza. Elam came akirin, unless we actually do recognize and know who they are. And vein kaisven get miyun, elam came makirin, unless we know who they are. The chashina lebezdin tayin, because we're afraid another bezdin may come along and use this get or this miyun to see that they were actually, the chalitza was done right, and the first bezdin never made a proper investigation. So maybe Taka wasn't the right yavam, or maybe it was some random person that wants to marry her and makes believe as if he's the yavam and makes his chalitza with her. So therefore, by a second bezdin that's not going to make a proper investigation when she wants to get remarried to someone else, so therefore, the first bezdin could do this chalitza without making an investigation, but they're not going to document it. Rava Dideyam, but Rava himself says, Ein chaitzin elam ke makirin. Bezdin will not administer a chalitza or have the woman do the chalitza unless they know who they are. Ve'im imanin elam ke makirin, or a miyun as well, unless they know who they are. So lefichach, so since this bezdin already makes the investigation, so kaisim get chalitza alf pishay makirin, bezdin will write a get chalitza, even if they don't know who she is. The kaisim get miyun alf pishay makirin, v'loy chashinon lebezdin tayin, and we're not afraid for a bezdin tayin because the proper investigation will be made over here. So the Heilige Mishnah, the last Mishnah of this Perek. Finally, it's very interesting the Seder of the Mishnah is here. The Mishnah, at the last Mishnah, after all the details, finally just comes and tells us the simple basic order of how Chalitza is done. Mitzvah's Chalitza, the mitzvah of Chalitza is done as follows. Bahu v'yevimtai, so the Yavam and the Yevam come together lebezdin. They come to the bezdin. V'heim asiyan la'etzai geneslai. So first of all, the bezdin takes a look to see who the man and the woman are, and they give the proper advice whether they should do yibum or chalitza. Shanema, as we can see, the pasuk says v'karolai ziknei yirai and v'dibru elav. They speak to him. What are they speaking to him? They're speaking to him to tell him what he should do. Should he do yibum or chalitza? And then after, if they decide to do chalitza, v'hiyai meres, she comes and says the following pasuk: Me'ein yevami lahakim la'achiv shem b'Yisrael. This yavam does not want to make a name for his brother that passed away. Le'ava yavmi. He does not want to be meyavmi. That's what he says. That's what she says, that is. And then v'hu aimer, he says, Loi chafatzti lekachta. I do not desire to marry her. U'b'lashon HaKodesh hayu aimrim. They had to say this in Lashon HaKodesh. The Gemara in Saita learns out from the psukim that has to be done in Lashon HaKodesh. And then the Yevama comes in front of the eyes of the elders, in front of the bezdin, and she removes his shoe, me'al ragla, from his foot. And v'yarka b'fanav, she spits in front of him, roik hanira l'dayanim. She has to spit enough that the dayanim could see. And then she comes and says, this is what's done to a person that doesn't build his brother's house. Until here, the bezdin would say the psukim. They would read the psukim to help her say what she has to say and help him say what he has to say. Until here. But Rab Horkenis, when he would read the psukim for them, what they have to say, Tachas ha'Allah b'kfar etam. So he made this chalitza under this tree in this town of Etam. V'gomer as kol parsha. So he actually concluded the pasuk, the rest of the pasuk that it says there in the parsha, after she says, Kocha ya'asa le'ish asher lo yivna es beis achiv. So after that, the pasuk says, V'nikra shmoi b'Yisrael beis chalutz hanal. That's the next pasuk. So he would have her read the whole conclusion of the parsha. Huchziku liyah is gaimrin kol parsha. So this became the minig that when she says the psukim, so she finishes off saying the whole parsha. V'nikra shmoi b'Yisrael beis chalutz hanal. Now, mitzvah b'dayanim. This pasuk, the mitzvah is that the dayanim should say this, that the dayanim announce this, that everybody should know that the chalitza was done. V'lai mitzvah b'talmidim. The talmidim, meaning all other people that are present there, that are just watching sort of as students to see what's going on, they don't have to announce this, they don't have to say chalutz anal. Rabbi Yehuda says, mitzvah al kol ha'imdim sham loymar. The mitzvah is for all others present that are standing there that they should also say chalitza anal, that the chalitza was done, that the shoe is removed and the chalitza is done. Everyone else announces it as well. Amar Rav Yehuda said, mitzvahs chalitza. The mitzvah of chalitza is done as follows. The order is kaira. First she says the psukim. She says me'en yevami lahakim, that he doesn't want to do yibum, and then v'kaira. Then he says lechafatzti lekachta, I don't want to marry her. And then v'chayletzes, and then she removes the shoe, v'roikeka, and she spits, and then v'kaira, and then she again says, the last pasuk again, that kachay asalish. That's the order. Says the Gemara, Maika mashmala. What's the chiddush that Rav Yehuda just said? Masnisani. The order that we just said there, that's exactly what it said in the Mishnah. Answers the Gemara, Haka mashmala. His chiddush was that mitzvah hachi. The mitzvah is to do it in this order. But v'i apich, if the order was changed in any way, less lamba. Doesn't matter. The chalitza is still done. Tanya Namiyachi, we learned so in a Braise, Bein Shehiktim Chalitza L'Rekike. If you change the order and first she spit and then she removed the shoe, again, first she removed the shoe and then she spit, this is actually the right order. Or Bein Shehiktim Rekike L'Chalitza, or first she spit and then she removed the shoe, which is the wrong order. Masha Asayasi. What's done is done, the order is not Makiv. Amar Abaye said another halacha here. Haiman de Makri Get Chalitza. So the person from the Bezdin that reads the pasuk for her to tell her which pasuk she has to say, you should be careful when he reads to her the psukim. So what is he reading? He's reading the pasuk where it says me'ein yevami lahakim lachav shem b'Yisrael, and then the pasuk concludes loy ava yavmi. So don't read the word loy and then make a break and then say ava yavmi. Why not? Because the mashma, because then it would sound like that what you're saying is avayavmi, that she's saying I do want this yibum. Right? If you make a break between the loy and the avayavmi, that's what it sounds like. Elo, he has to read it without any interruption. Loy avayavmi, he has to read it together, that there should be no break whatsoever, that it should be clear that what she's saying is that she doesn't want the yibum. And similar regarding the man. V'loy likri lididei, and the person of the bezdin that's reading for the man what he has to say, so you should not say loy l'chudei, the word loy, and then make an interruption, and then say chafatzti l'chudei, the word chafatzti after a break. The mashma, because then it would sound like he's saying chafatzti lekachta, I do want to marry her, without the loy. Elo, he has to read it together. Loy chafatzti lekachta, I do not want to marry you. So it should be clear that the loy goes together with chafatzti. Rava says no. Rava Amar Afsuki Milsihi. Even if you read loy and then there's a short break and then you say chafatzti, or you say loy and then avayavmi, it doesn't matter. You're just making a very short break. Vafsuki Milsa Leslam. But taking the short break doesn't matter. Many times when a person speaks, you take a pause between one word and another. So just because you made a pause, it doesn't change the meaning of what's being said. So Ravashi, so the Gemara says a story here that happened. Ravashi ashkechele Rav Kahana. Ravashi saw Rav Kahana that was doing a chalitza, the kometztayer omikri le'avayavmi. He was making a very big effort, and it was hard for him. He was trying to read it for the Yevamos, that she should say loy avayavmi, that she should say it together. So she was trying to do it like loy avayavmi, like very quickly together without any break. And he was sort of having a hard time with this. Amalei, so Ravashi says to Rav Kahana, why are you bothering? Do you not hold what Rava said? Rava said, even if there's a pause, it doesn't matter. Amalei, so Rav Kahana answered, Maide Rave b'loi ave yavmi. Rave is Maide regarding loi ave yavmi, that over here you do have to be careful not to make a pause. Only regarding lechafatzti lekachta did Rave say you don't have to make a pause, but not regarding loi ave yavmi. So Rashi says the reason is because by lechafatzti lekachta, when you say those words, there's nothing before lechafatzti. You begin with loy. Lechafatzti lekachta, so even if you make a pause, it's obvious that the loy goes together with the chafatzti. But when it comes to the loy ava yavmi, that's not the beginning of the sentence. You're saying a whole part of the pasuk before. Me'ein yevami lahakim la'achiv shem bi Yisrael, and then you say loy ava yavmi. So if you make a pause, it could look like that the loy is connected to the beginning of the sentence. So over here, even Rava will agree that you have to say it without a pause. Amar Abaye, Haiman the cost of Gitte de Chalitza, when you write that get of the Chalitza, to give her that document that she could prove that she had a Chalitza, so Lichtev Hachi, you write inside it as follows, Akrinua Lidida, so we read for her, Min Me'en Yevami, from Me'en Yevami ad Ava Yavmi, until the end, she said what she had to say, and Vakrinu Lididei, and we read for him, Min Loi ad Lakachta, from Loi until Lechafatzi Lakachta, so he said what he has to say, Vakrinu Lidida, and we also read for her, Min Kachav ad Chalitza Sanal, what she says after the Chalitza is done. So you write that into the Chalitza, that all of this was done properly. Marzutre, Misartit v'kasiv l'kula parsha. Marzutre, he would write into all the psukim of the parsha that we just mentioned, and he would write it on a parchment like it's written on a Sefer Torah. And he would write it with the sirtut, which is the lines that you make that's made on a Sefer Torah, that's like ingrained in the parchment. So he would write it mamish like a piece of a Sefer Torah. Maskefla Mar Baridi, so Mar Baridi asked on this that Marzutre would do, Bahad Vahal, Leinitin Likasib. The Gemara tells us, this is a Gemara in Gittin, Rashi brings there, the Gemara there says that if you're giving a child a piece of parchment and you write in it a few parshas of a Sefer Torah, you're not allowed to do that. When you write a Sefer Torah, you have to write the whole Sefer Torah. You can't give a child to learn and write on him a few psukim or a parsha that's written like a parchment from a Sefer Torah for a child to use. So over here as well, how could you write this parchment and give it to this woman when you have these psukim written in it? But the Gemara says, this is not a question, v'hilchasik v'seid Marzutre. The halacha still remains like Marzutre, that you write it like it's written in the Sefer Torah and you give it to her. So Rashi explains, the difference is, when you're writing it for a child to learn, you're writing it for him like to give him a piece of a Sefer Torah. That you don't do. You don't give a child a piece of a Sefer Torah, one parsha. You write a full Sefer Torah. You're not allowed to write a piece of a Sefer Torah. Here though, it's not being written as a piece of a Sefer Torah. To give it the kedusha of a Sefer Torah. You're just giving it to her as a proof that everything was done right, and therefore it's allowed to be written, even the psukim, the way it's written on a Sefer Torah. Amar Abaye, Rakaka, what happens if she spits in front of him? But v'koltasa yeruach, the wind came and picked up the spit and it didn't land in front of him. So what's done is nothing, because it has to come in front of the Yavam. My time, the spit has to be in front of the Yavam. So Hilkach, so therefore, even if a wind comes, it'll actually depend who's taller and who's shorter. Who aroch, if the Yavam, the man is tall, vihi gutza, and she's short, so then koltasi ruach, even if the wind comes and takes away the spit that she spat in front of him, so ikke befanav. But when it came out of her mouth, because she's shorter and she's standing right in front of him, so as soon as it came out of her mouth, it's in front of him. But he aruchov who guts. But if she's taller and he's shorter, so then when the spit comes out of her mouth, it's still not in front of him because he's shorter. It has to go down, has to land in front of him. So being an adamat lahadi yapeh, the spit has to come down, be at least in front of his face. So therefore, if the wind blew it away before it came down, so then it won't be good. Lahadar apeh v'hadar asl, that is. So only if it came down in front of his face and then the wind blew it away, then it would be kosher. Amar Rava, another thing about the spitting, Rava said, Achla tuma, if she ate garlic, v'raksa, and then she spit, or Achla gargishta, she ate gargishta, some kind of clay that they used to chew on in those days, v'raksa, and then she spit, it also it doesn't accomplish anything. Why not? These are things that bring that the saliva in a person's mouth is caused by the garlic that she eats or the other things that she ate. So my time, but the reason is v'yarka, she has to be the one that spits on her own, me'atzma, from herself, be'ina, that's what we have to have, v'leke, and we don't have that here because it's the garlic that causes this saliva in her mouth to be there. Rava says, Tzriche dayani lemechse ruka. The dayanim have to see the spit that comes out of her mouth. Kinofik mipuma the Yevama, when it comes out of her mouth. The chsiv, as the pasuk says, le'enei azakanim v'yarka, and they're all in front of the eyes of the zakanim. And then the pasuk says v'yarka, she spits. Then the Mishnah said, "V'nikra shmoi b'Yisrael beis chalutz anal mitzvah b'dayanim v'loy b'talmidim." So the Mishnah in the first opinion said that who announces this? The Bezdin announces chalutz anal, but the talmidim, others that are present there, do not announce this. Tanya and Abraisa we learned Rabbi Yehuda said, we were sitting in front of Rav Tarfon, and the Yevama came to do chalitza. And he came to us, that is, Rav Tarfon told us, Anu kulchem, everybody should answer and say, chalitz anal, chalitz anal, chalitz anal. 3 times all people present should announce and declare chalitz anal. Hadran aloch mitzvahs Yevamos, the conclusion of the 12th Perek of Masechta Yevamos. It's an interesting thing. You constantly see in this Masechta that Talmidim would sit in front of the Rosh Hashiva and learn. It was a hands-on learning. And then this Yevama walks in, and right in front of everybody, they would do the Yibum, the Chalitza, or whatever it is. It's like, everybody involved. Should have this today, where you have a Bezdin in the Yeshiva, and as you're learning, you could have the Chalitza being done, so you could see how to do it.